Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth911's Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, your host. And today we are joined by Kevin Kelly, who's the CEO of Emerald Packaging. They're at mpac.com, and they're the makers of in fact, most of the plastic bags that you might use at retail, whether you're in a grocery store picking out vegetables, in the dried fruit section, picking out some prunes, put them in the bag. That's an mpac bag. Welcome to the show, Kevin. How are you today?
Fine. How are you?
Doing well. Now, the whole world, however, is struggling with COVID, and plastic has really enjoyed a resurgence during the pandemic because it's a easy way to seal stuff off, keep people from touching fruit and passing the virus along by doing so, for instance. What have you seen in terms of trends around the use of plastic in retail since the COVID pandemic began?
Well, in March, we saw about a 100% increase in bookings from our customers. And
your business doubled.
Pardon me?
Your business doubled.
Yes, it did. And then April, May, and June, July, even now, orders are still up about 20% per month. Mm-hmm. So we saw a huge increase in our business. Most of what we do is in the produce section.
Right.
So if you were to go buy a salad in a package, or celery in a bag, or one head lettuce in a bag, that's the kind of thing we do. Mm-hmm. And so consumers started buying a lot more packaged produce than unpackaged. In fact, grocers started to tell their suppliers to only send packaged produce in. So the challenge to us, of course, has been to get product out the door because we're not a company 50% larger than we are.
Sure.
That's impossible, even with my weak math skills. So it's been a real challenge to get things out, and there's been no slowdown in demand, and it doesn't look like demand's going to tail off really anytime soon, at least in the produce segment. I can't really predict other segments. But bread bags, for instance, saw the same uptick, as did other packaging of more perishable items.
So let's talk about the plastic bag as an artifact of our society. We generally have made plastic plastic bags from petrochemicals, but you've been working for the past half decade or so, based on my reading of your site, on both recyclable bags and renewable bags, as well as compostable bags. Can you talk about where we are in terms of progress towards really being able to reliably use plastic and know that it can be recovered and reused, or that it can be thoroughly composted?
Well, that's a very complex question, as I'm sure you intended it to be. Yes, we've been working, we were the first folks to use corn-based plastics, PLA, in the produce industry probably 15 years ago, mm-hmm. Really at the behest of Walmart. So we were the guinea pig at that time with that material. We've continued to work with compostable materials since. We've introduced several different pouches that are compostable. Almost all of the packaging we do currently is recyclable. The only that isn't really is the salad packaging, because the packaging there regulates the oxygen and carbon dioxide in the package. And you just can't use, for instance, a monolayer film to do that. You really have to laminate two different films, usually, say, a polyethylene and a polypropylene, and that compromises the recyclability of the package. But I would say, in terms of recyclability, in terms of being able to recycle, mm-hmm. about 70% of what we do is already recyclable. The other 30%, we're working on materials right now that will be able to achieve the same end result as the lamination, but with a single material, even if it is laminated. But that's still going to probably take 2 or 3 more years. We're just not there yet. Now, the second part of that question underneath it is, okay, we've got recyclable packaging. is it being recycled? What's the prospect that it's going to be recycled?
And it's an important question. Our readers and we are painfully aware that during the pandemic, one of the things that grocers have cut back on is their recycling. How do you see grocers starting to respond to the increased volume of plastic that they're selling? Are they also stepping up to recycle it?
Well, I don't. I think there's a lot of nervousness at the store level about taking bags back as they were prior to the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a lot of health concerns for their own employees. So as that has tailed off, and I think it'll rebound, but I wouldn't expect it to rebound really quickly, like everything else, probably until there's a vaccine. And COVID is in the rearview mirror, or almost in the rearview mirror. So recycling has taken a hit at the store level. It would be different, obviously, if we were able to curbside recycle flexible packaging. The issue there is that most of the MRFs don't have the technology to be able to do it. In fact, really, a curbside program, they've been piloted around the country, but haven't been very successful. And that's where I think the industry really has to begin itself to address funding recycling technology to be able to recycle its material, but in a mass way, just right. Not through store take-back programs. I'm sure your listeners do take their materials back to the stores. Those of us who are conscious of that program do, but many, many people are not. And there hasn't been a great deal of education around it, except in programs like yours. And so that's another challenge with that program.
Well, now you mentioned earlier that Walmart was one of the key drivers of your initial move into compostable and recyclable materials. Are there particular grocery chains that are really pushing you to innovate more effectively?
Well, it's usually the big ones, right? Costco, Walmart, and its Sam's division. Kroger is a more progressive one. Those are the folks I think that are really driving the packaging people to look at new technologies, particularly compostable technologies. I think Walmart, going all the way back to the packaging scorecard many years ago, has really pushed a program of sustainability in packaging, which is somewhat ironic, but I mean, it's not ironic in the sense, it's not something people would normally conceive of a Walmart doing, but they have.
Yeah, and in fact, those of you listening, Walmart runs one of the most influential sustainability conferences every year because they get all their suppliers together and tell them what they need. And as a result, Walmart ends up defining a lot of the most advanced recyclable and sustainable packaging initiatives in the industry. Now, let's tease apart your question your answer to my complex question, which was, you also mentioned that by reducing the complexity, stopping using composite materials to make bags, that you are going to be able to enable greater recycling. But you also mentioned that MRFs, and that's materials recovery facilities for those folks listening, that do the collection of this material need to be able to process it. And the challenge in a lot of the MRFs is that the film that the bag is made of gets caught in machinery. Is that something that can be solved with new technology and increase the overall volume of stuff that can be captured and then processed?
Yes, but it would take a massive investment. And of course, right now, recycling is not the most profitable industry in the United States, given the issues with end markets, given the concerns around recycling and COVID. And so that's a problem that really needs to get resolved. Obviously, one way they've done it in Europe is through extended producer responsibility, right, and raising the funds in order to modernize recycling systems. They've also done an enormous amount of consumer education, which we haven't done in the United States. Mm-hmm. If you stay in a German home, you go outside and there's 5 different cans outside, each for a different kind of material.
Right.
So it's a very sophisticated system. And that's what the United States really needs to be looking at. The only way to come up with the monies needed to modernize our recycling system is either or probably both, is some sort of producer responsibility program that involves a financial commitment to the producers, and also the consumers probably getting some charge at the grocer level, and then educating the consumer so that they separate the packaging as needed. Right. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. Obviously, it's a 10-year program, but it could happen. And I think the UDOL bill, at least, that was introduced in the last Congress, was pointing in that direction. I'm not sure I agree with all of its particulars, whoever does it with a piece of legislation, but I think it was at least heading that way, and it would have gotten industry to the table, the big companies in the industry to the table.
Now, I understand that you were also involved in the California Senate Bill 54, which is the California Circular Economy and Plastic Pollution Reduction Act, which failed to pass the Senate and died as the legislature closed. And you weren't a major fan of the details of that project, or of that bill, but you do have strong ideas about how this needs to be funded, and particularly within your state of California. Can you talk about what California needs to do to actually pass that bill in a way that it can realistically catalyze the revolution you're talking about?
Well, I think the UDOL bill is a good place to begin, that there should be extended producer responsibility organizations created. It should involve all materials, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a plastics guy. I do really think it should involve all materials, because Sure. All materials are in question here, of course. I think there has to be money created so that the recycling industry can modernize. One of the amendments attached to 54 in the end did not require the recycling industry to modernize in any way to accept plastics in its stream. So the basic premise then of 54, it just became an outright ban, because we would never have met the recycling percentages that were dictated in the bill, mm-hmm. which were also, I think, much too aggressive. The proposition that's coming up in 2022 here in California on plastics recycling, I think, is more realistic. It also has a lot of acceptance amongst environmentalists. It has more realistic goals regarding recycling.
So can you characterize what those realistic goals are that makes this more palatable?
Well, I think what the 2022 initiative calls for is a 25% reduction in single-use plastics by 2030. And I think that's achievable. I really do. I think first, there's things that don't need to be packaged that are. I think we can all walk through the store and see that.
Yeah.
There's things that benefit from packaging and don't. And then I really do think recycling systems can be developed, or there are companies that are creating and investing in them that can bump up the recycling of flexible packaging. It can't get to 70% recycled by 2030. There's just no way it's going to get there. It's not a realistic goal. And so I think 20%, 30% realistic goal, mm-hmm. 90% unrealistic goal, 70%, 90% unrealistic goals. So, I think that's where the proposition is more realistic.
And in terms of how much funding, and since you've been dealing in California's debates, let's focus on California. How much funding do you think is needed for the recycling industry to reinvent California's recycling infrastructure? And I know you have mentioned producer responsibility, but obviously we need to spread that cost around for this to be fair to everybody in society, and at the same time to benefit communities that are not getting any recycling service these days.
I think it's in the billions of dollars. I know it's in the billions of dollars. It isn't a cheap thing to do, to go in and recreate a MRF top to bottom. And so any program would have to obviously raise that kind of money just in California. across the country. I would really like to see a national bill so that it'd be hard to imagine how California could charge producers outside the state for packaging they ship into the state.
Sure.
It would be very, very difficult. And so I would really like to see a national program. And if we see a change in the Senate composition in the coming election cycle, I think we probably will see that national program introduced in 2021 and hashed over, and we might see a bill by the end of 2021. I think that would be great. I think it's the only way you're going to get through the national logjam around recycling is to get a change in the structure of Congress between the parties. The House is there, the Senate needs to get there. And we need a president who's going to support recycling. Obviously, the current occupant of the White House does not. And so even if you had a Democratic Senate, you probably would still not get a bill signed. And so we really need an environmentally conscious Congress and president in place to get these programs through at a national level. That's really what's going to solve these problems.
And, as we look forward, and there are projections around the volume of plastic that will be in use by 2050, which is roughly 200% of what we have today. So it'll grow 3 times. There's a lot of opportunity in continuing to produce responsible plastic to the extent that it is responsible, compostable, recyclable, made of biomaterials. How much, given the opportunities to grow our economy, should producers be thinking in terms of putting into this system as part of their responsibility for the materials they make? Is it 1%, 5% of revenue in order to make this leap forward?
I think if you looked at the industry as a whole, 1% would probably do it. I don't think I'm lowballing it, but I'd have to actually get an envelope and start scribbling and figure that one out. But 1% is a fairly large number when it comes to the packaging industry in its totality. Mm-hmm. I think then you might graduate it, right? Larger companies, higher percentage, smaller companies, lower percentage.
Right.
Larger percentage for the resin manufacturers like Dow and ExxonMobil, who have the deeper pockets in the industry. I think there's a lot of money out there to be had. I don't think it would require a lot of money, a high percentage of dollars from the industry to get there.
And with that kickstart, do you think that 25 or 30% reductions in single-use plastic are, and you said this earlier, are really realistic by 2030? We could make this step forward with sufficient investment? I
think so. In fact, I hope so. We better be able to do it. I think it's incumbent upon the country, the planet, to get moving in this way fairly aggressively. And so we better be able to get there. I don't see why one way or the other we couldn't.
Well, that's really encouraging to hear. Now, I also read a posting that you put up on your site about a new patriotism, and I'm recalling that as we talk, because you said, now's the time for us to go out and spend some money in support of the restaurants that we like, the community businesses that we want to have available once the pandemic has passed. But that patriotism extends to this environmental undertaking we all need to take by the horns and push forward. What would happen to Emerald Packaging if we don't make this change? The supply chain interruptions that interrupt the business of your many customers are going to cost you a lot of money. Do you feel this is an existential issue for Emerald Packaging as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, I was thinking that I used that very word in my brain yesterday. It really is an existential issue. For me personally, for the company, and for the industry, for consumers. I don't know that we take it as seriously as we need to. I think the industry is getting there. Environmentalists were there a long time ago. I think we have to get consumers there, but it's an existential issue for the planet, just like the greenhouse gas issue is an existential issue for the planet. All you have to do is be in California today where the sky is orange-gray, because the the state is burning because of global warming to really know that we have to tackle these issues. We have to tackle them right now. We really don't have a choice. And I really do believe that. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on this program. I've actually been saying it in the industry, as many California producers have, for 20 years. We tried to get the industry to look at the green dot system almost when it came out in Germany, and were rebuffed by the national companies. So I think we've understood here that this is a growing issue, and now we've got to the flashing red light, and we had better move.
Well, Kevin Kelly, thank you very much for joining us on Sustainability in Your Ear today. It's been inspiring to talk with you.
Well, thanks for giving me the opportunity, and I'm a loyal listener and will continue to be so.
Well, thank you. That was Kevin Kelly, who's the CEO of Emerald Packaging. You can find them at empack.com. That's EMPACK.com. Take a look and learn which bags to choose. They make a variety of bags and packages for salad, and many of them are more sustainable than the other options you may be presented. So, folks, check us out on Earth911. This is Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, and we will be back with another innovator interview soon. Take care, everybody.